Welcome, everybody, to the Mission Employable Podcast, Iowa's very own workforce podcast, where we talk about great career opportunities across the state. I'm Ben Oldak, joined by my co-host, Kathy Leggett. Kathy, how's it going today? You doing well?
Yes, I'm doing great. Hello, everybody.
Excellent. Now, this episode is all about the work-based learning opportunities at a school district that is paving the way with innovative programs that help students find their career path. On the show with us today is Grant Hegstad, the career coordinator for MOC-Floyd Valley School District in Orange City, Iowa. He made the drive all the way down here to Des Moines. Welcome to the show, Grant.
Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, thank you for coming, and thanks for
Yes.
making the trip. I know, was it 3 hours?
About 3.5. But
Oh,
I
it was
feel
a nice
like
day
we're
for a
really
drive,
special
so.
I know.
that you made the trip to do this. So
It's awesome,
excited
expanding
to
the
have you.
footprint. So, first of all, kind of tell us about your role and about your school district.
Yeah, you bet. So I'm at MOC-Floyd Valley High School. My role there is assistant high school principal, but then I also serve as our career connections coordinator. So really just finding ways to connect our students, our teachers, and then our community partners as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we know that work-based learning is a big priority here in Iowa. So what are some of the work-based learning programs that you have going on in your district?
Yeah, so when you look at our programs, we've really tried to create kind of a continuum of options just because we knew one program wouldn't necessarily fit all of our students. And so we've got kind of three specific pathways that really focus in probably at a different level with work-based learning for our students. We've got what's called our CAPS program, which stands for Center for Advanced Professional Studies. We've got our Extended Career Experiences program, which is kind of a pre-apprenticeship type of program as well. And then just the last couple of years, we've started our Registered Apprenticeship programs as well.
I love what you're doing, and I think what you said is so true, that we want a continuum, because one thing doesn't fit everybody, and you guys are really well on your way to developing multiple opportunities, and I think that could really, have a place for every student, hopefully, in your building. So it's fantastic. Can we talk a little bit about each one of those before we go on, just to explain a little more? So maybe first tell us just about the CAPS program and how that works.
Absolutely. So CAPS we launched, this is our second year of our launch. With that, the CAPS program itself actually began in Kansas City, Missouri metro area. And from that time, it has spread across the nation. They've got a couple sites internationally. And as we just did some of our groundwork and research in terms of what program would fit us and our area best, we found CAPS as a model. Kind of the mindset and the philosophy would be one that would work well within our area as well. And so we connected actually with Cedar Falls and Cedar Valley CAPS because they had a model that we felt would be transferable to us in Northwest Iowa as well. And so 2 years ago, it was us, Sioux Center High School and Sheldon High School, that had that initial launch as Siouxland CAPS. And from that time, we've actually grown to 7 programs this spring semester. We've got 4 that are onboarding for next fall. So fun to see the growth of that program regionally, even within the first 2 years of its inception. But really, we look at that. The target market for that program is all of our junior and senior students because it's a great fit for those that might be college-bound or workforce-bound. It might be great for those that know what they want to do or those that are totally uncertain. So we really think that becomes a really good fit because the things that they learn through it grow them as people, grow them as professionals, and all those skills then are transferable to whatever they might be doing.
So what kind of stuff are they doing in that program?
Yeah, so we start off that program with a 4 to 5 week onboarding process. And really the intent of that first onboarding weeks are to really transition their mindset from being that of a student to that of a professional. And when we say professional, I don't mean have to work in an office space, but instead it's more what are the adulting skills that we know they will need for the real world that we sometimes overlook prior to that. So it might be introductions and handshakes, it might be having conversations, it might be making a phone call or professional email. Those are the skills we know they're going to need someday in the real world, but they're also skills that they'll need for the rest of the semester. So that's kind of where it begins. As the semester goes, they adopt a client project as well, which is done with somebody within our community. And then really the course of the next 12 weeks is geared towards that project. And so building them as innovators, building them as problem solvers while using those professional skills, but also really putting a strong emphasis on career exploration as well. Again, we try to give them the skills that they need to be successful so they reach out and contact people within the careers, the professions that they have the interest in and want to learn more about as well.
I would imagine that helps build confidence too.
You know, if I look at one of the greatest outcomes, I think, for our CAPS associates, if you look at them at our daily stand-up meetings, week 1 versus week 18 of a semester, they've transformed as people. And I think confidence is a big piece of that.
That's so amazing. Okay, then, and you also mentioned about, it wasn't called pre-apprenticeship, I'm not sure, but if you could tell us about that piece now.
Yeah, you bet. So our Career Experiences program, really, we had a work experience program that's been in place for many years, but we were just looking, how do we take it to another level for our students and connect them in a different way to our community providers? And so that program, we really look at taking the student and matching them and getting an understanding of where would their career path be post-secondary. And then finding a partner that can maybe step in that gap to serve as the mentor, kind of as that apprenticeship provider too, just to bring them along. And so they're working with that job site coordinator to learn some of those skills of that trade, whatever it might be, with the hope that in due turn, not only are students learning some of those skills, but also that we can provide a value-add benefit back to that employer because they've learned enough to contribute to that team.
Great, and then take us on into the Registered Apprenticeship, and then we have other questions after that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Registered Apprenticeship, 3 years ago, we tried to do kind of a deep dive into registered apprenticeships because we saw there's such value in those opportunities. But what we found is the groundwork initially is much, which we weren't necessarily afraid of, but we were worried about sustainability just because we knew we might not always have a student that's interested. And so that's where for us a regional approach has actually been helpful. So with our first registered apprenticeship program, NCC, which is a community college in Sheldon, kind of took the lead with that, and they developed an RA program in welding and then connected with school districts in the area and said, if you have students that are interested in this, we'd love to help be the host of that. And so we had a student that started in that program 2 years ago. He graduates just now in a couple weeks with that program being completed. Since that time, we've had some developments. The state of Iowa with the Parent-to-Teacher program has provided another new avenue for students. We actually had a conversation with another community connection just this week, actually, and they're launching one for diesel technicians, which again is a really good fit for the people of our communities. And then we also have a community partner that's working to develop one for electrician as well. And so, again, we as a school district can't necessarily take credit for a lot of the work that's been done on those because our community partners have been awesome in terms of taking the lead. But it's fun to serve kind of as a conduit and connector for our students and them as program leads.
For sure. And that kind of leads me to a question that I was really kind of excited to ask you is that we've talked to a lot of people that have started these kind of work-based learning programs in more urban settings, or at least in the bigger suburbs. What kind of advice would you have as a smaller school district to other smaller rural community school districts that are thinking about creating a work-based learning program?
Yeah, when I look back at the last couple of years when I've had the opportunity to serve in this role, my personality type likes to be one that I have all the details planned out and things ready to go, and then I'm ready for launch. Well, the reality is, if I do that, programs might not ever launch, period. And so I think just finding a student, finding a community partner that have the interest to fulfill whatever needs might be there, and then just giving it a start. And the way the world continues to change, our programs continue to change and evolve over the course of that time. And so I think just finding a student, finding a community partner, and then giving it a go. I've learned a ton through it, so have our students, so have our community partners, and that's kind of the beauty of it in some ways too, is the programs continue to evolve based upon the needs of our students and the community as well.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like something where, hey, you just got to jump in the pool and, not quite sink or swim, but like you do learn a lot as you're going on, and you can make those improvements to the program as you go. It doesn't have to be this like 100% perfect program right from the jump.
Most certainly. We talk about the iterate process with, giving it a start, reviewing what's going well, where opportunities for improvement. Really, that's something of mindset that we've tried to adopt to within our programs is let's give it a start, and we'll trial it, and then we'll adjust things as we go.
I appreciate you saying that because I think that is really good advice to people listening too, because I think you're right. I think especially in these settings, we have to have everything in place before we can get started. I mean, that's the way it feels a lot of time. And so I think that's great advice. And like you kind of demonstrated here is maybe you start with one student, one opportunity, so it's not a massive thing, but it's take a step forward and go from there. So that is awesome. Do you have some examples of student success stories that you could share?
Yeah, one of the things that we talk about in CAPS specifically, but I think would be a mantra that we hope to live by with the rest of our programs too, is really preparing all students for their purpose. And so I think anytime we can arrive at the end of a semester or at graduation and students feel more confident with whatever the next steps might be, I think we celebrate those as successes. But I think looking at programs specifically and just a couple of students, we had a young man in our CAPS program last semester. His name was Andrew. And through that, he knew he wanted to be involved in the trades, but didn't know what that would look like. So was he going to go to community college first? Did he want to explore registered apprenticeships? Really had no idea because he didn't even know what trade he wanted to be into. And so through his career discovery meetings, he had the chance to connect with 4 different individuals within the trades, figured out that he really had a strong sense and a calling to be an electrician. And so from that first semester, he did a career experience with a community partner second semester, kind of as that pre-apprenticeship, just to affirm the desires that he had in that career field, to build some of his foundational skills that might be helpful in the future. Has had a great experience this semester, and he'll actually be signing on with a community partner for a registered apprenticeship and electrician beginning this summer. And so I look at his story, I think that's pretty cool. We had another young lady named Alicia who our daycare and preschool has been a phenomenal partner for us. And she knew she wanted to go into childcare, but again, didn't know exactly what that path would look like yet. And so this year she's had a chance to be there for a couple class periods during our school day, just to learn more and do more with that team. And just to watch her confidence grow from day one until week 36 ending here shortly in our school year has been phenomenal. And just the purpose that she's found within it, the valuable role that she's played on that team, but also just the direction it gives her going forward, we're pretty excited about for her as well.
That's so cool. A question about the students. How do the students know about these opportunities? Like, how do you get the word out among your student body so that they even can consider it?
You bet. So we think students probably become our greatest recruiters actually for our programs. And so my goal is that we provide each of our students a really great experience, that they want to share of it with their friends as well, because them speaking it to their peers has a lot more power than just my messaging to them. So I'd say our students have become our best recruiters for programs. To hit the masses, what we'll do too during our scheduling sessions in the spring is we'll gather all of our sophomores, all of our juniors, all of our seniors as we're doing the scheduling pieces as well, and just have our students who have been involved in those programs come, and they basically just give a testimonial. So I'll ask them questions, and then they get to speak to it, which is, again, is nice because it gives them voice in that, and it brings validity to kind of the experiences that they've had, and again, has probably been our greatest recruiter for us.
Yeah. On the flip side of that, how do you go about recruiting employers or other people in your community to come on board and work with you?
Yeah, I think with that, similar to having great experiences with students, so students will share, trying to find great community partners that have great experiences with us that are also willing to share. So I think that's been really helpful for us. We've tried to do some with digital media and social media just to share our story in that way. Last week we actually held a career fair, which was a project that our CAPS associates put together. And so even at that event, I think we had 36 community partners that were there connecting with over 500 students within our community. But then over the lunch hour, as they had the chance to eat, again, we just brought forward some of our students that have been involved in those programs, and again, gave them the stage basically to share of, this was my experience, this is why it was valuable, and this is why it was important to me. Basically just inviting them as community partners to come on board with that too. So trying to get the word out in various ways has been helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Kathy, you'll agree with me that one of the biggest things with this is that the value that you're adding back into the community when community partners are working with you, you get workforce pipelines, you get to talk to younger individuals. You're not like getting them right as they come out of college. I got to imagine that's an important thing for employers to be a part of.
Yeah, I think, and the other, just to tap on that too, is we hope that through these opportunities that they'll find a path in Iowa, maybe even in the community that they are in, that they really didn't know existed.
Absolutely. We look at it, I'm going to steal this line from our friends at the Cedar Valley and Cedar Falls CAPS, but they talk about handshakes, not handouts. So often we're asking for things, but this is our hope where it can be really a two-way street, value-added benefit for both, where our students are gaining and benefiting in so many ways, but also because they're gaining skills or knowledge that they in due turn at some point can hopefully give back to our communities or the state of Iowa.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So where do you see this program going in the next 1, 2, 3 years, like kind of just like the near future?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I wish I had a better answer for you. Because even within the first 2 years, the program has changed and morphed just a lot, depending upon, again, what are the needs and desires of our students, and how do we also fit the gap for our community partners. We're excited with our CAPS program. We've kind of done a general CAPS solutions group the last 2 years. But we have a strong interest in our community for education, and so we're starting a CAPS education class or grouping, you could say, this fall to kind of meet a different need. We also have a need for medical field because our students have that, but also our community does as well. And so we're going to launch kind of a CAPS Med opportunity as well. And so we're excited to see maybe how that changes and morphs things. Registered apprenticeships continue to grow, and so as fast as our community partners can keep up with some of the work on that, we'll keep piping kids that have that interest into those sectors as well.
That is so fantastic. I was curious if you have any interaction or feedback from parents, as they have seen these opportunities for their kids and maybe what they can provide.
Yeah, I think as we spoke earlier, confidence was one of the biggest things that a lot of parents have spoken to in terms of how they've seen their children grow. I think purpose and direction, especially with whatever that next step might be. We don't promise by any means that we're going to ensure that your student is on the right path, but sometimes it affirms that path that they think they're on. Other times it maybe closes doors, but in our minds that's also a win because they don't continue along that path further, only to get redirected later on. And so I think a lot of parents have expressed that that's been helpful for them as they look beyond high school as well.
I got to say that's probably a great way to kind of show validity to some of these programs that are alternate paths than college, right? Like, I know obviously college is great. I went to college. Kathy,
I went to college
you
many
went to college,
times, yeah.
So, but we also, one of our mantras here is college is great, but it's not for everybody. And I feel like when you can show this pathway early on, it probably helps convince parents that this is an alternate route that is valid and something that should be seriously considered.
Most certainly. I think about my high school experience. I think just in terms of where we're at in education at that point, there was a fairly strong push for students to go to four-year institutions. And I think we're finding a better balance between four-year, two-year, community technical school training, apprenticeships, workforce development, like whatever that looks like. I think we're finding ways to connect students with whatever is going to be the best means and path to help advance them, depending upon what their career field might be.
Yep, you said that really well. I don't know if you have gleaned this from the Cedar Valley CAPS program, but when I work with them before, one of the things I love about them is that they advocate for saying, what's your graduation story? And I love that because it takes it away from where you're going to college. Again, not that that's a negative, but for a big percentage of the kids coming out, they're not. And I think all of these other opportunities are great opportunities. So if we say, what's your graduation story, they get a chance to be proud and share it all.
That's a great point. And we do steal that also from the Cedar Valley CAPS group.
Great.
Because, we look at the next couple of weeks in our area, just as across the state, you've got graduation parties you go to, and that is the question that all of our graduates will be asked. What's your plan after graduation? And we know just from conversations with students, if you weren't saying four-year school of sorts, not that they were ashamed, but maybe didn't feel as fulfilled as others should. And so to be able to give them the confidence, because there's such purpose to those other options as well, to speak into it and speak confidently of their story, we think has an awful lot of value.
Yeah.
So great.
And what does that do for you guys as educators when you see students, find that purpose? Because I know that's probably something that gives you guys a lot of personal fulfillment as well.
Absolutely. I coach in the fall, and I remember probably 7 or 8 years ago, I talked to one of our seniors and I said, what's life after graduation look like for you? And he looks at me square in the eyes and says, I have no clue. And he's one of many that sometimes is the story upon graduation. So I think just to help shape that story into something that, again, leading up to graduation, but then also beyond, to see kind of that circle come to fruition. I was talking with a community partner that served as an apprentice site to one of our graduates recently. So he'll graduate in 2 weeks with a diesel technician degree, and he's going to come back and work for them. That was possible because of that community partner. Not only did they take him on as a young apprentice, but they provided scholarship for him to go to community college to get the training. And now he's coming back to our community to work within that industry sector. And so it's fulfilling to be a part of that and hear those stories, most certainly.
That is so awesome, and that's what we want for every student in Iowa. So you guys are well on your way, and congratulations on the great work you're doing.
Yeah, and thank you for coming by the podcast. It's great to hear those success stories, and we obviously hope that these kind of guests and stories will help encourage other school districts or businesses to either start a program, get involved with one, reach out with the possibility of creating one and not be afraid to take that leap, like we mentioned earlier, to get involved in these kind of programs because they're so useful.
Absolutely. Yeah, we certainly appreciate you guys hosting us today and just the opportunity to share some of our experiences.
Excellent. Thank you so much for stopping by,
Thank you.
Thank you.